pride in seeing your receivers play well. Devin Funchess has seemed to really embrace the physicality of his routes and getting those extra yards. Does that give you a little bit of an enjoyment to see him kind of truck sticking people out there?
It's funny to hear a female talk about routes. Like, it's funny. But fun is coming along, man. We're gonna. This is a big.
Yeah, I know I'm a little late. At the time of these comments, Cam Newton had thrown 5 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. Now, he responded from this idiotic, chauvinist statement with a great game after it. He's completing 64% of his passes thus far this season. Came back down to earth in Thursday night's game against the Eagles. Though 2 of those 3 interceptions he threw weren't his fault. I'll give him that. His team is at least in the hunt. But what? You're going to criticize a female reporter for doing her job, yet you've been subpar at the most integral part of your job throughout the entirety of your career? Your career completion percentage is still in the 50s. Last year, you threw almost as many interceptions as you did touchdowns, as is the case right now. And at the time of these comments, you actually did throw as many interceptions as you did touchdowns. So what do you actually know about routes? The biggest criticism on your game isn't your athletic ability, because that's all-time great. It isn't the rocket you got of an arm. It's your ability to play within the pocket, or lack thereof. You're criticizing a female for asking about routes and looking down on her, yet you're one of the most ineffective, inconsistent quarterbacks in the pocket. So what do you actually know about routes, Cam Newton? And progressions and the whole gamut. What do you know about that? You're entering your 7th season, and you're still far from a finished product. You still have a ways to develop as a passer still after 7 years. And I genuinely hope you get it together once that athletic ability goes away, because beyond that, you don't got much else going for you, bro. Welcome to the show. We're entering week 6, so by now teams are pretty much what they are. We have a pretty good idea of who's good and who's not, who's going to be in the playoffs and who won't. One of the teams who definitely won't be in the playoffs, well, that's the New York Football Giants. One of the great franchises in the NFL is going to be top 5 pick buddies with the likes of the Cleveland Browns and the San Francisco 49ers in the 2018 draft. And whether Odell Beckham got injured or not wouldn't have changed that. The defense isn't as stingy as last year, but I do still think with a capable offense, they could return to form. Which brings me to that, quite frankly, offensive side of the ball. Disarray everywhere. I want to say it's just a bad case of luck, considering just last week your top 4 receivers went down in one game. Like, that doesn't just happen. But they might as well have taken the rest of the year off, because Eli Manning and that offensive line isn't doing him any favors. I'm not going to harp on the loss of Odell. Obviously, it sucks for any team to lose their best player. This shouldn't, in my opinion, affect whatever number the Giants were going to throw at him in contract negotiations. They know they need to build their franchise, build their offense around that emotional lunatic, whether they like it or not. I am going to focus on where they start in the rebuild of the offense. And that's cutting the dead weight. I've said it numerous times. Giants, you will have a top 5 pick in next year's draft, where the quarterback class is going to be hyped up as one of the strongest in a long time. Eli Manning isn't going to get any better. He can't move in the pocket behind a crappy offensive line because he's old. If you don't cut him, you better bench him for whatever quarterback you better get with your first pick in the 2018 draft. He's holding your offense back, and he's done it since last year at least, which in turn is holding back your best player, who you are going to be paying top dollar for. A younger, quicker, more mobile quarterback will work better behind that offensive line than the statue that is Eli Manning. You don't know whether or not you have 2 or 3 years left of a capable Eli Manning, but you do know you got a top 5 draft pick, and one of these young throwers is going to be good, and even if they aren't as good as you think they're going to be, can they really be that much worse than Eli Manning? Get a young guy in ASAP, allow him to get his reps in with your franchise player, Odell Beckham, and have Eli sit on the bench and coach him up, or just get rid of him altogether. I've been pointing out how horrible Eli Manning has been since last year. Now you have an opportunity to actually get rid of him. So do it. Don't wait. I know Giants fans have an intense emotional connection with Eli Manning because he won them 2 Super Bowls, but move on, guys. That was years ago. You're now listening to The Pylon. The NFL has reinstated Ezekiel Elliott's 6-game suspension. Now, luckily for Dallas, they're on a bye week, so they don't have to worry about this affecting their plans for this Sunday. So that's one bullet dodged. Now it looks like the NFLPA is going to refile their lawsuit to make sure the square-headed battering ram of doom doesn't actually miss any time. But honestly, I see this playing out how Deflategate did. It literally got so annoying that Tom Brady just threw up his hands and said, screw it. At this point, the NFL and Roger Goodell care way more about this than I do. Let me just suck it up and do my time, come back, and crap all over the league. That's literally Roger Goodell's game with this type of nonsense going on right now. Annoy the opponent into submission. Roger Goodell has way more to lose, so I guess he has to keep fighting no matter what because he's the main one always pushing for the brand-conscious agenda that is the NFL. Zeke is just a spoke on the wheel. And speaking of Zeke, I'm going to have to ask you critics to calm down and get off of my buddy's back. Yeah, see now, before he was drafted, I stood in front of that camera screaming till the veins were bursting from my neck, telling you guys he ain't as good as you thought he was. I guess some people took that as me saying he was going to be a bust, but I did clarify in a later video before his preseason debut that I thought he was going to be a solid pro, and he's been solid so far in the second season. Then, of course, he sort of made me eat my words and had the year he had last year behind that offensive line. Now, some of those pieces are gone, and what does he look like? A solid pro. A lot of people are getting on the guy because he's averaging 3.7 yards a carry. He's not breaking off those explosive runs anymore. He does look to be kind of out of shape, but I'm not going to stomp all over Lego Head because when you look at the big picture, and as you all know, I'm a big picture type of guy. He's still top 5 in rushing yards so far this year. They're still trying to figure out what works best for that offensive line because they're integrating some new pieces. But I will point out that Zeke is showing he's not as naturally talented at the running back position as once thought. So how about we both agree to be right? Let's just leave it at that. I wasn't wrong about Zeke, and neither were y'all. Thank you. That kind of diatribe was just to, help me sleep better at night. I hate being wrong. And I'm sure you do too. Quick thought on Adrian Peterson to the Cardinals. CJ2K? Carson Palmer? Larry Fitzgerald, AP, all on the same offense? If this was like the offseason before the 2008-2009 season, we'd be calling this the greatest offense ever. We'd be saying the Cardinals won the offseason. The Cardinals are going 16-0. Listen, man, I'm glad AP went and got up out of New Orleans just for the simple fact that he was lied to prior to his arrival. The Saints gave him no indication that they were going to draft the kid Kamara, so he went in thinking he'd be at least splitting carries with Mark Ingram, thunder and thunder. Which, it's a business, I get it. Lying happens all the time. But obviously that wasn't the right fit, and I doubt Arizona's going to be much better. Will he get more touches? Absolutely. Well, he better. I'm pretty sure on that contract, there's a line in there saying, I will get this amount of carries per game, and he made Bruce Arians sign on the dotted line in his own blood. But this offense still ain't going anywhere. The line's bad, Carson's bad, team morale is bad, just ask Patrick Peterson. It's difficult watching this Arizona team because whenever I look at them, whenever I turn them on the TV, I just think, these guys could have been legit. This is a team a couple years ago had dynasty written all over it if they reached that potential. Look at them now. It's all your fault, Carson. Way to screw it up. Just kidding. Sort of. You're now listening to The Pylon. Let's talk NFL hierarchy. The NFL is all over the place so far this year, and it's great. I like that. An unpredictable season brings in excitement and brings ratings. It actually helps keep you engaged for 3 full hours because you don't know what's real and what isn't until the clock strikes 0. The top 2 teams right now are the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, I overlook the teams, and I'll explain. Let me explain myself. First off with Philly. I don't like jumping the gun in sports. I don't. I want you to show signs of life before I commit to digging you out of the grave. I mentioned in the NFC East video that Philly is going to be is a superbly put together team. The pieces are there, but I thought it would take a year for it to, come together before they took off next year. But obviously they accelerated in that timeline, and good for them. Over on the AFC side, I saw Kansas City taking a big step back this year because it just felt like it was going to be Oakland's year. Obviously, it's not. I thought the Patrick Mahomes, Alex Smith drama would be a distraction. I thought the defensive losses would be too much to overcome. I thought this team had peaked. But Andy Reid is just as great as ever. And Alex Smith is learning from his past mistakes. You see, Alex Smith knew what was coming. He saw a beige-colored, biracial, high draft pick, hot shot, being brought into the fold to challenge him for his job. Again. And luckily for him, Alex Smith looked himself in the mirror. What's wrong with me? Why do they keep trying to do this to me? What do Colin Kaepernick and Patrick Mahomes have in common besides nice bagel-colored skin? Arm. Fearlessness. Deep shots. The exact opposite of conservative, dink and dunk, game managing Alex Smith. Guys, it's hard for people to change. It really is, especially 13 years into your profession. Think of this. As you get older, you realize you and your parents argue about the same things. You have differences on the same subjects. The arguments usually go the same. Maybe some more heated than others, but generally it's the same topic. Then after a while, as you get older, once you reach your 20s like I have, I'm not saying I'm more wiser than the other person, you start to notice patterns. You realize your parents are just stuck in their ways. And as you get older, you're going to get stuck in your ways too. And no matter how much you ask them to change, they aren't going to. I just recently got out of a relationship where we weren't even willing to change our own schedules. And why should they? your parents, they're probably 40 to 50 plus years old. I'm sure they raised a great kid for 2 decades, maybe a little bit under that, depending on the viewing audience. Why change now? Do you actually know how hard it is to change your entire approach to life? Now, Alex Smith. He plays a position where defenders are coming at you 1,000,000 miles per hour. You only have a few seconds to try and not get your head ripped off. And the safe thing for Alex Smith up until this year has been to dink and dunk and just get it away. But Alex Smith is not only talented enough, but he is honest enough with himself to start changing and looking deep. Open up his mind and go against his better judgment. And now 11 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 5 wins later, he's the NFL MVP thus far this season. Who would have thought we would ever see that? Now to tie this back into the NFL hierarchy between the top 2 teams so far this season, the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs, if their offense continues to at least be the opposite of the snooze fest it was last year, they are more likely to reach the Super Bowl than the Eagles. This team should have been in it last year, but New England didn't miss a beat. I thought they were going to, but they didn't. And the Chiefs couldn't get past the biggest pretenders in the NFL, the Pittsburgh Steelers. But now both of those teams are down, wounded. New England is literally hanging onto the right arm of Tom Brady. The Chiefs can be the team to take advantage of that. They've proven the past few years that they can win ugly. So now they need to put it all together and take them out. This year they're winning pretty. Combine those two. Pittsburgh, it's quite frankly a joke, but more on that in a minute. The NFC side of the league, the Eagles are the best team in the NFC, no doubt, but not by much. Because Aaron Rodgers is just that good and can take anyone out on any given Sunday whenever he wants to, because he's the Michael Jordan of NFL. Seattle is always there. You've got to respect them. And I think the Cowboys have just a bunch of warriors that can give any team a run for their money on any given day. There are legitimate roadblocks in the way of the Eagles in the NFC route to the Super Bowl. While it's looking like the Chiefs are just running through cobwebs. Some quick hits before the end of the show. We could be on the precipice of the downfall of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Again, they have not been a legitimate Super Bowl threat since 2010. Pundits hyped them up as the biggest threat to New England the past couple years. I didn't necessarily think so, but I could see why they say it. However, them being the biggest threat to New England, this is just straight up truth. It's more of a reflection on how horrible the AFC has been, not how good the Steelers have been. Big Ben is not all in, Antonio Brown is showing he actually is selfish, and Le'Veon Bell is just trying to get paid. This offense is not all in with each other. Big Ben and Martavius Bryant have had beef. They all need to have a heart-to-heart meeting, because if not, I could see the rails falling off this offense real fast. And what's been going on in the back of my head, if the Steelers are convinced Big Ben is retiring, then they need to tank and get one of these young QBs in this upcoming draft, because Baldy Joshua Dobbs, whatever his name is, isn't the answer. If they miss out on one of these quarterbacks, then you risk your most explosive player, Antonio Brown, getting frustrated with the dip in numbers, and that affects the locker room even more negatively than it already is. And teams are just going to key in on an already injury-prone Le'Veon Bell. There's a hole in the ship right now, and if they want to stay relevant, they better patch it up quick. The Los Angeles Rams, the feel-good story of the league this year, but I ain't buying it. I'm glad Todd Gurley has got himself going this year, because I believe he is the top running back threat to Le'Veon Bell, not Ezekiel Elliott. I feel like he's more talented. He's obviously had to shoulder the load of being the only option worth going to on the Rams offense these past 2 years. Jared Goff looks markedly better, but look at who the guy's going against. The Cupcakes, Indianapolis Colts, giving up 31 points a game on defense. Jeez. The Cowboys, 26 points per game. The 49ers, 28th ranked defense, 24 points a game. He goes up against the Washington Redskins and the Seattle Seahawks, both defenses who are playing well, and he struggled. This is a mirage, folks. Last up, so far, who's the Rookie of the Year, Deshaun Watson or Kareem Hunt? At the end of the year, it's probably going to be Deshaun Watson because he's a quarterback and the league discriminates against running backs. But right now, you cannot say without a doubt, it's Kareem Hunt. He's the Rookie of the Year so far, and it's not even close. He leads the league in rushing by more than 100 yards right now, and he's making Alex Smith's job easier. His team is undefeated, and he's one of the top 2 reasons why. Deshaun Watson has 12 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, which is great, but none of those touchdowns came in a blowout against Tennessee and a 5-touchdown performance against the Chiefs when the game wasn't even all that close to begin with if you really watched it. Alright, that's all I've got for you guys today. My name is Milton Woolley, and you have now listened to another edition of the Pylon Podcast. Stay safe. Don't buy into this North Korea BS. If someone was going to pop off, it would have by now. They're all just barking chihuahuas. I'm sure Max, if you're listening, I hope you are, bro. My disrespect to Cam Newton earlier, I'm pretty sure you want to respond to that. We'll get you on the show next. See you soon. Goodbye.